Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about my setup for the Sony A7C. Let's go. Okay, so starting off this video, we're going to talk about the lenses that I use. Now, I'm currently using adapted Canon lenses. So if you are a Canon shooter and you're thinking of converting over to Sony, just know that this actually works really well with the right adapters. I've found that the Viltrox EF to NEX4 adapter works really well. I've tried the newer one and the Comlight one, and I've returned them because they're absolutely crap. But I've had good luck with this Viltrox one. The only thing is the transition between phase detection and contrast detection autofocus for Sony's photography and videography modes is a little bit hit and miss. So it takes a little while just to kind of switch between the two and get used to switching it if you're used to using Canon lenses on a Canon camera. That's just my experience though, and your mileage may vary. I have a friend who shoots with an MC11 with adapted Canon lenses, and I can't really speak for his experience, but he hasn't actually had the same problem I have. But I'm pretty happy with the Viltrox one. It's cheaper than the MC11, so I'm not going to bother trying it out at the moment. I may do further down the line. Okay, so in my kit then, in terms of lenses, I have the 24-70, which I have on the camera right now. I have the Sigma 10 to 20mm. Now this is an APS-C lens, so you have to switch the camera into APS-C mode in order to do that. More on that later, but the 10 to 20 basically gives you a 16mm, which is kind of handy considering that I can pick up, well, I picked it up for less than 100 quid, and you probably could as well, or whatever currency you're in secondhand. It's pretty cheap and affordable, that's my point. Finally then, the third lens that I use most of the time is the 70-200 f2.8 Canon lens. This is the first generation L series lens with no IBIS, which was actually one of the deciding factors in me getting a Sony camera because of the IBIS rather than sticking with the Canon M50 that I already had, as well as obviously the full frame sensor upgrade of the Sony, you know, because why not? Okay, so next up, let's talk about some of the auxiliary lenses that I use. So I do often use a couple of the Canon lenses that Caleb from DSLR Video Shooter suggested in his kind of budget cinema kit lens video. I can't remember the exact title, I'll put it in the description below. That video was super helpful for me, especially when getting lenses for the Blackmagic. I don't use them all the time because sometimes it's just easier for me to stick like this 18-135 on the Blackmagic as like almost like a one size fits all lens. But I do have the Canon 28mm, I have the Mer 1B 38mm lens, I believe it is. I have the Helios 442, a 135 and a 50mm. And those are all vintage lenses that adapt to Canon EF fit on this camera. Okay, so in terms of SD card, nothing fancy, just a SanDisk Extreme Pro 256GB SD card. That means that I can film for ages, take as many photos as I want, and never really run out of space. And it's obviously very important to have nice high write speeds for those 100 megabit per second, transfer speeds for the higher bit rate files that this camera can record. Moving on to some of the kind of button configuration, I actually haven't changed anything yet. I've only had this camera for 2 months. Wow, have I had it for 2 months already? Yeah, I think I actually have. I've only had it for 2 months, so for me, the kind of layout as it is, getting used to it, and then I'll eventually figure out what works and what doesn't work. It's a completely different layout to what it was on the M50. Like, I've got a wheel here, as well as obviously the directional buttons, as well as having this scroll here rather than on the front. It would be nice to have an additional scroll on the front. I'm pretty sure the A7 III has that. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Don't be too harsh. And yeah, having the extra control would be kind of nice, because sometimes I feel like I want to just with ease, just go straight to one control thing to change the ISO, whereas I have the wheel set for aperture and the wheel set for shutter and the scroll set for aperture. And it would be nice to also have another one for the ISO, rather than having to press an additional button and then scroll the ISO. It would just be easier for that. But that's pretty much my buttons. Like I say, I haven't really customized anything. Oh, actually I did. I customized the down key on the directional swivel twisty wheel pad thing, I configured that to be switching between having animal and human face tracking, which is kind of handy for me because I shoot my dogs up. That's awful, don't, no. I take photos of my dogs a lot, and I take photos of like Bella, and I do obviously vlogs and all that kind of stuff. So that is actually really handy for me. Moving on to this wheel on the top then, your modes wheel, I guess you'd call it. So I obviously have your manual mode, you've got video mode, you've got S&Q, which I never use. There's a good reason for that, which I'll get into later. I have the first memory mode. Now you've got 3 memory modes on this camera that you can save directly to this wheel, so that when you switch to them, it recalls from that memory all the settings that you save in. This includes everything from shutter to ISO to picture profile. That doesn't affect the rest of the camera. So on the first mode, I have this set to be my 24 frames a second, 100 megabit mode, which is pretty much my standard for most of the things that I do. So most of the vlogging, most of the sequences would be sped up like time lapses, like a lazy time lapse. That will be the mode that I use. It's on picture profile 2, which I have set to be using S-Log2 and S-Gamma based on some recommendations from other people. I've only had Sony system for a couple of months, like I said, so this will probably change as time goes on, but for now that is what it is. On the second mode, I have 30 or 50 frames. I'm kind of switching between the two at the moment. I've not really decided on it. And number 3, the only reason I have 1 and 3 is because it's easier just to get to the extremes of these 3 modes rather than sticking to the middle one. So I have 1 as being basically my vlog, my 24p picture profile enabled mode, and number 3 as being my slow-mo mode. So this is in 120 frames a second. It's actually 119 point, anyway, that's not the point. So yeah, the third one is picture profile slow-mo. So that there doesn't then affect the rest of the camera, which is really handy. So that's all saved in there, memory recall it, I'm good to go, I'm good to shoot. Swap back to manual for photo, and those picture profiles aren't affecting the gamma. It only affects the gamma when you put a picture profile on stills, aren't affecting the gamma. For that, it is easy to correct, but I just can't be bothered at the moment. I'll probably eventually give up and just learn how to do that, but for now, those are my modes. That's the way I'm doing it. If you want to do it the same, there you go. That's how you do it. That's the way. This is the way. No, I'm not going there. Mando, so good. It's just infecting everything at the moment. Anyway, cracking on. If we talk about the menus, so I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to turn that off for manual focus so it's not hunting. So if we hop into the menus here, we have got the custom menu, which I suggest everyone sets up. Now this will expand over time, I imagine, but right now this is what I have it on. So I have silent shooting in there because sometimes it's nice to have silent shooting. I have the APS-C Super 35 mode. So as I mentioned, that Sigma 10 to 20mm lens, that is an APS-C lens. So whenever I pop that on, which is usually when I'm vlogging, I will just hop into this, go to my menu 1, which is usually the first menu that opens. You can actually hotkey that, I think, to the function button, but I haven't done it at the moment. Then you can toggle that to on, and you're away. Like, really not that difficult. You swap lenses out, you turn it off. Real simple. Sony's very good with that, especially with the way that it does it. More on that in like a Gerald Undone video or something. Someone's probably done a better video. I'm not going into detail because I'm not the technology guy. I'm the guy that tells you how to do things, not the why to do things. So then we have the picture profile. So like I said, it's handy just to have these picture profiles hotkeyed in because it's just nice to be able to kind of swap to these on the fly. And then your gamma display assist. So having that on helps you kind of adjust what you're seeing on the screen for what you're shooting, so you can get a better representation in camera of what you'll get when you get into editing and you start, adjusting it and color correcting it and grading it. So having that gamma display assist there is really nice, and I will usually put it on S-Log2 because that is what I'm shooting. So it's just nice, it just adjusts that kind of well. Okay, so that just about wraps it up for this video. If you have any kind of suggestions or you've got your own configurations that you'd like to recommend, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. But that is it. Don't forget to like, comment, get subscribed and like the bell to stay up to date for whenever I release a new video. And until the next one, see ya. There's a table between me and you now. Bye.